Hey everybody, it's Mr. Roy. I'm back for more. Let's talk multi-step equation solving. Now, this is section 4.2 in your textbook, also section 4.2 in your workbook. So the problems we're going to be practicing today are out of those sections. Those are also a good place to just read, especially the textbook. If you want more examples, that's a really good place to check. Okay, multi-step equation solving. This is going to be really useful in this year and in following math that you're going to take. This is a key skill that we're going to need. So let's jump in, do some multi-step equation solving. This stuff is at times tricky, but with practice, you'll find that you'll get really comfortable with it. Here we go. Here are some things to remember before we start out when we're doing multi-step equation solving. First of all, we want to expand by and remove brackets first. That's going to be the first step that we're going to start with in order to make our solving a little bit easier. So using our distributive property that we just studied in this class, we can use distributive property to change how things look by getting rid of brackets in order to make solving our equation easier. Next, we got to watch out for negative values. They can be tricksy and they can get us into some trouble. Watch out for your negative values. Third, we're going to collect all of our like terms. And we're going to solve for our unknown, for our letter. Okay, so let's jump in. Let's try a few of these out. The best way to learn this is by doing. Here's our first one. This is actually a two-step equation. We're pretty familiar with these, but it's a two-step equation with a twist. So let's begin. For our two-step equation, the first thing we want to do is we do want to get x by itself, so we're going to get rid of this 4 that's right here. Okay? How are we going to get rid of the 4? We're going to subtract 4 from both sides. So let's do that. We're left with minus 2x equals 16. What are we going to do next? X is being multiplied by negative 2. Well, let's divide. Let's undo that multiplication. Let's divide both sides by negative 2. The negative 2's are gone because negative 2 divided by negative 2 is 1, and we're left with x equals. Now, 16 divided by 2, that's 8, but 16 divided by negative 2 is negative 8 because a positive divided by a negative gives us a negative. Okay, so that's our first one. We're probably, pretty familiar with that. That seems familiar. Let's try another one. Here's another two-step equation. So we've seen these before. We've seen them yesterday. We don't feel too bad about them. Let's start by undoing the addition. Let's subtract 14 from both sides. Okay, on the left side, we're just left with 3m. On the right side, we have negative 4 minus 14. We're going down 14 more. That's going to leave us with minus 18, negative 18. Let's divide both sides by 3. We're left with just an m on one side and negative 18 over 3. Well, 18 divided by 3 is 6. Negative divided by a positive is a negative, so m equals negative 6. Okay, that's a good warm-up. How about this one? This one has some more steps. Here's the really tricky bit in this one. All of a sudden, I have an x over here and an x over here. That's going to make things more difficult. So, here's the key to solving this. What we need to do is we need to get all the x's on one side. And we need to get all the regular numbers on the other side. Once you've got all the x's on one side and all the regular numbers on the other side, we can collect our like terms and solve as we normally do. So here's what I think we should do. I need to move all the x's over so they're all on one side. Well, the left side already has this negative 26. Why don't we just leave our regular numbers there, and let's get rid of this 5x, and let's move it over to the other side. Well, how do we do that? Well, it might surprise you, but you can actually add and subtract this whole thing. We've got 5x's. What if I subtracted all 5x's from this side so they're gone? Well, if I do it to one side, I gotta do it to the other side. Okay, so far so good. If I subtracted 5x from the left side, it's gone. I'm just left with negative 26. What about on this side? 18x minus 5x. I've got 18 x's and I'm going to take away 5 of them. That leaves me with 13 x's. So that's a tricky step, deciding, okay, I'm going to get all of the x terms over on one side, all the regular numbers over on the other side. What's the easiest step to do that? I just get rid of the x's on the left, so I only have my regular numbers there, and then I only have my x's on my right-hand side. Now, 18x and 5x are like terms. That's why we could subtract them. Now, let's divide both sides by 13. We're left with x equals negative 2. 26 divided by 13 is 2. Negative 26 divided by positive 13 is negative 2. Here's a tough one. This one's a little trickier. I notice I've got an x on this side and an x on this side. I notice I got a regular number on this side and a regular number on this side. I'm going to have to do some work on that. Now, you can decide to put these on whatever side you want. You might say, I want all the x's on the left, all the regular numbers on the right. That's great. You might also decide, I want all the regular numbers on the left, all the x's on the right. That's also great. Both of those will give you the correct answer. Both of them will work out. One might be a little easier than the other, though. I think it's going to give me a little bit of a nicer solution if I don't have to deal with too many negative numbers. That'll make my life a little bit easier. I notice that if I get this 3x out of here and subtract 3x from both sides, I won't have a negative value in front of my x. So let's do that. Let's subtract 3x from both sides. So it's gone from the left, and all I'm left with is 46. On my right side, I've got 1, I've got 8x, and I've got minus 3x because I subtracted 3x from both sides. So what does that look like? 8x minus 3x is 5x. Okay, we're halfway there. Now we need to do the next step. And this looks pretty familiar to us at this point. Let's get this 1 out of here by subtracting 1 from both sides. 46 minus 1 is 45. So I've got 45 equals 5x. Let's divide both sides by 5 to get that 5 out of there and have x by itself. So 45 divided by 5, that's 9. Tricky stuff. But with practice, we're going to be experts. Okay. Oh gosh, here's one that has distributive property. Good thing we studied that today, right? If we get rid of these brackets first, it's going to make our lives a bit easier. So let's multiply through the brackets. So what do we end up with? Well, we got 3 times 2x, and we got 3 times 5. Three times 2x. It's like 3 groups of 2x, so that's going to be 6x when I multiply the 3 and the 2 together. 3 times 5 is 15. Now I bet you could solve this from here. This is just a two-step equation. Let's subtract 15 from both sides. I'm left with just a 6x here. And I'm left with a 24 here. Let's divide both sides by 6. "24 divided by 6 is 4. We can check if this works too, right? Let's do a quick check. This check will work anytime. Let's take our equation, 3 times 2 times 4, we're going to put a 4 in where our x was, plus 5 equals 39. Let's see if that's true. So, inside the brackets, 2 times 4 is 8. 8 plus 5 is 12. 3 times 12 is 39. Nope, it's 36. What did I do wrong? Aha, I got it. It's not 12, it's 13. Three times 13 is 39. Awesome. It's good that I checked. See, that checked out. Okay. Ooh, this is getting tougher. Now we're really going to need our distributive property and our collecting like terms. I'd like you to pause the video and give this a try. See how far you can get before you get stuck. Okay, I'm glad you're back. Let's do distributive property, and then we'll collect our like terms. So we got 2 times 9x plus 2 times negative 1. Now let's do our distributive property here. Negative 7 times x. Negative 7 times 6. And then we still have our minus 60. That doesn't change. That doesn't go anywhere. Okay, now let's do that multiplying. Make sure we got everything correct. So we'll go, okay, 2 times 9 is 18, so that's going to be 18x. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2, so I'll go minus 2. Negative 7 times x is negative 7x. Negative 7 times 6 is negative 42. Minus 60. Whew, okay, so we multiplied through the brackets and here's where we ended up. Are there any like terms that we can combine? You bet there are, right here. Negative 42 and negative 60. Those are just regular numbers. We can add them together. Let's do it. They're like terms. So we still have 18x minus 2. We still have negative 7x. And negative 42 and negative 60 is going to be negative 102. Okay, so far so good. Now we've got x's on each side and regular numbers on each side. That's not going to help us. We need to get them all into one side. Let's start with the x's. I'm going to move them all to the left side. If you chose to move them all to the right side, it would still work. But I'm going to move them all to the left side. I'm going to get rid of this one by adding 7x to both sides. So on my right side, I'm just left with negative 102. On my left side, let's see, 18x plus 7x. What's that going to work out to? Well, that's 25x. Okay, so we're almost there. Now what we've got to do is get this regular number, this 2 out of here. Let's add 2 to both sides. So we're left with 25x equals negative 100. You might have been tempted to write negative 104, but no, we're adding 2. So it's going to be negative 100. Oh gosh, this is going to work out beautifully. Divide both sides by 25. We end up with x equals negative 4. All right. We're going to do just a quick final look here. What do we do if we run into some fractions? What do you do if you have a fraction? First of all, don't panic. Don't panic. If there's 2 fractions, we'll see if we can find a common denominator and multiply each term by our denominator. And then continue by removing brackets and solving. So I'm going to start with a simple one, and then I'm going to show you a complicated one that we'll do, not today, but we'll do the next day. Okay? So let's eliminate the fractions and then solve. We've done ones like this before. What do I do to get rid of this 6 on the bottom? Aha, I multiply by 6. But I got to do it to both sides. 6 divided by 6 is 1, so I'll get rid of it, and I'm left with 5x equals 2 times 6 is 12. Now let's divide both sides by 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1, so x equals 12 over 5. Can I write that as a simpler fraction? No, I could write it as a mixed number, which would be 2 and 2/5. But 12 over 5 is as simple as I can make it. I'm going to end up with an improper fraction. Okay, our last one. This one looks scary. Let's deal with those fractions first. Let's get rid of this fraction on the bottom. Let's get rid of that fraction. How do we do that? Multiply both sides by 7. Okay, so we multiply both sides by 7. On my left side, 7 over 7 is 1, so I can get rid of that. We're left with 3 times m plus 2. We got 42 on this side. 6 times 7 is 42. Now let's multiply through the brackets. 3 times m plus 3 times 2. 3 times m is 3m. 3 times 2 is 6. Oh, we're good at this stuff now. Let's subtract 6 from both sides. Okay, we subtract 6 from both sides. We end up with 36. Divide both sides by 3. We end up with 36 divided by 3 is 12. Okay, so I'm going to show you the next kind of problem we're going to tackle. We're not actually going to do this until tomorrow. Look at this monster. It looks tough, but we can do it. Together we can. Okay, so that's it for today for solving multi-step equations. This is something that needs practice. So it's time to go for it. Time to go do the practice.